This game was provided to Crits Happen by Dragon's Lair Comics and Fantasy. Check them out online at dlair.net for all your comic and gaming needs. Hey everyone, it's Tox from critshappen.com. Thanks for watching and welcome back. We're here with the first of a monthly series of videos we're going to begin doing here at Crits Happen called The Critique. This is where we're going to take a game and talk to you about all of our fun experiences while playing it. This is not meant to be a full review, but actually an overview of the game, how it plays, and what we've absolutely loved about it. This is Rampage from Repos Productions and the mind of Antoine Bauza. This is one of the most fun games I have probably ever played, and there's really no point to it. It's all about city destruction. Now, as a caveat, yes, you can enter this game with strategy. You can play this game with strategy, and you can try to enjoy it that way. But the best thing that I have heard said to date about Rampage is from a good friend of mine, Benny Sperling, who posted on our Facebook page, Rampage should be played epic moment to epic moment, because that is what it's all about. This is a game where you're going to start off as one of 4 different colored monsters between red, purple, blue, and green, with the goal of destroying the city and eating meeples. At the beginning of the game, you're going to be given a player board that has 4 destructible teeth, and we'll talk a little bit in a second about why the teeth are important, plus 2 natural teeth on the board. On the back side, you're going to have a little player aid to remind you about your actions and what you can do. But more importantly, you're going to be dealt out a character card and a power card face up, so that people will all know what your character and their power is, and a super secretive power face down. Now, as you can imagine, you're only going to be able to use that super secretive power once in the game, and it's going to be really powerful when you do, so you want to make sure you time it to just the right moment that will help you. Now, it's not about eating all the meeples. It's about eating the right meeples. The way you get points at the end of the game is by having sets of the 6 different colored meeples that are in the game. You're going to have everything from blue reporters to gray old people to yellow cheerleaders to red heroes to green military people and black businessmen. So each color is going to represent a different type of character in the game. And they are ridiculously crazy fun to destroy and eat, and ridiculously crazy hard to get multiple sets of. Because as you can see by everything laid out in front of me, they are all over the place. The game is set up very randomly, and the game actually only takes about 5 minutes to set up. It's very simple. Lay out 4 meeples at the edge of each building, put another table on top or another layer on top. Keep doing that until you have 3 layers, and then place 1 meeple on top. Now, as you can see, there's different size buildings. There's really, really big rectangular buildings. There's smaller, more like skyscraper style buildings. And then right here in the center is the stadium. The stadium has 4 people on top and 8 people on the bottom. And the stadium is very, very hard to destroy. And then finally, among all of this are 4 little vehicles that sit inside the neighborhoods. And the neighborhoods are outlined both by color and by walls, so you can tell the difference between them. Sometimes your monster will be in 2 different neighborhoods. Sometimes they'll only be in 1. If they ever straddle 2 neighborhoods, they can choose which neighborhood they're able to affect with different powers or superpowers. The trucks and the vehicles are able to be thrown, so get ready. This is a game that, while it says is for 2 to 4 players and ages 8 and up, we have played with as young as 4, and they love it. Because of the small pieces, obviously want to recommend that you have parental supervision if you're going to play with younger kids and have them around. This is not something you want to just leave them with when they could take a meeple and try and be a monster and eat it on their own. That's not a good thing at all. So how do you actually play Rampage? Let's talk about it for a second. Aside from your monsters, you're going to have these little discs underneath your monsters, which are your feet. You want to keep your feet on the board. If at any time your feet get knocked off the board, either through your own movement or someone else's movement, you lose a tooth. And the teeth are really important, because at the end of your turn, the number of teeth you have determines how many different meeples you can eat in your neighborhood. More teeth, more chomping. More chomping, more meeples, more points. Now, this is not a game of rolling dice and moving around. This is not hexes. This is not squares. This is about dexterity. So let's show you a little bit about how you move around and some of the actions that you can take inside this crazy, wild world of Rampage. So we're going to go ahead and be the green player for this example. Now, there's a couple of different actions you can take on your turn. The first is moving your monster. To do that, you pick up the body of your monster and you flick the feet of your monster. Now in this case, I landed adjacent to that sidewalk, which is great because now for a second action, I could demolish this building. And to demolish the building, it is as simple as you may imagine. You're going to pick up your monster, you're going to hold it over a building wherever you want to, and drop it on the building. And as you can see, meeples are going to fly everywhere. They're going to be going all over the place. Now, if I were to have knocked off all of the meeples off of floors, then I potentially could eat those floors and at the end of the game get points for those floors. But as you can see right here, this yellow meeple, this cheerleader, stayed on top of that top floor, that roof. So while meeples underneath were thrown off, I'm not going to be able to eat that roof. Now on your turn you get 2 actions. So those would have been my 2 actions. After that I can chow down. Now I'm in this green neighborhood, which is kind of an L shape around here. Anyone that has fallen off of this I can eat. The challenge is that there are only 2 businessmen that have fallen into the neighborhood. The red hero that was on the back side of this building actually fell into the gray neighborhood over there. So that would be my turn. I would take my 2 businessmen and put them behind my screen. Everyone knows I took them, but you want to keep it hidden so people can't remember exactly how many sets you have. Now, let's say the next player goes and they're wrecking over here and they're wrecking over here and everything comes back to me. There's some other actions you can take on your turn as well. The next action is you could blow, and this is probably the silliest and most fun action. To blow, you actually have to leave your character on their feet, put your chin on top of your monster, and then blow. And yes, you can blow as hard as you want. So if I decided I wanted to come in here and knock this meeple off on my next turn, I could come in and blow that person off. Now I was able to blow both of the yellow cheerleaders off, which means I would take this floor and score that as a point at the end of the game, and take this floor and score that as the end of the game. That means that for my second action, I could then also, because I'm still on the sidewalk, drop my character and try and destroy more of the building. Now sometimes like that, not much happens. We did knock a bunch of meeples off though, which is good, but again, there's only 2 in my neighborhood. There's a cheerleader and there's a hero, but that's good because they're going to help me complete my sets. Gameplay is going to continue like that, with meeples flying everywhere. And in addition, you're going to have trucks. So let's say I was over in this gray area. Let's say I'd moved myself over here into this gray neighborhood, and there's a blue truck, a news van, in that area. I can pick up the truck and then choose to throw it either at buildings or at another player. If, let's say, this red player had gotten over here and he was trying to go after the stadium, I could try to knock him out. So I could hold my character and flick the truck at him. Now, in addition to any damage I may do while that's going on in the gameplay, if I knock him over, I knock out one of his teeth. But more importantly, if I'm the one that's knocked him over and knocked him out, then I get one of those teeth in my stomach, and that's worth 2 points at the end of the game. So there's a lot of destroying the cities and also a little bit of fighting each other that's going to happen throughout the gameplay. And then as you can imagine, people come flying in, blowing things up, and sending things everywhere. Now, one thing we haven't talked about is the runaway board, and this is really important. So let's pan back and we'll show you a little more about that. So we talked a little bit about gameplay. Let's talk a little bit about the runaway board, which is really important. The runaway board is a 2-sided board. There is an A and there is a B. The A has rows that get filled up, and if you get to the end of the board, the game will end. The game normally ends when all the buildings have been destroyed and then each player has an additional turn. However, as you see here, as you fill up the rows, different things can happen, and they're almost always bad to the person who fills up the rows. Because while you want to destroy the city, you don't want people running away off the board like we just had. So every time one of these rows gets filled up, the active player has to have either 1 to 2 teeth get lost, and different things will happen, like moving them around the board where your opponents get to choose where you go, or your opponents may get an additional action per turn, all these different things that never benefit you and always benefit someone else. Now, the side that we have the most fun with is actually side B. And the reason for that is you can see there is a different row for each colored meeple except the gray old folk, which we'll talk about in a second. Every time that each one of these rows gets filled up, the active player has to deal with the bad things that happen. And on this side, it can be not just as bad as losing 1 or 2 teeth, but potentially being forced to discard one of your cards, which could be really big as well. For example, if I have 3 reporters that have run away on the board, now it doesn't matter if they all run away on my turn all at once, or if I'm the one that fills up this row because other players have had 2 reporters run away on them. If that happens, then I'm the one that's going to be stuck in a position of having to lose a card and lose a tooth. But on top of that, all 3 blue meeples go back in the box and the row can be filled up again. Now, you may be asking yourself, why is there no spot for the gray old folk? Well, there was actually an Essen, I believe it was Essen expansion, where there was a rocket ship, and you can print this out on BoardGameGeek.com, or you can just know this and play this way, where for every 3 gray meeples that get knocked off the board, you actually gain a superpower. So you can get an additional superpower, a secret superpower, in the game. That's really cool. That's where you may want the old people to run away and make some other strategic choices to make that happen. So in this case, with these 3 meeples, the soldier, the hero, and the reporter being knocked off earlier, I would go ahead and put 1 red meeple on the red row, 1 green meeple on the green row, and 1 blue meeple on the blue row. Now they stay there until it's filled, so even though I didn't fill up any, that's good for me, but bad for all my opponents, because if they knock those off, then who knows what can happen. The thing about Rampage is it's fun. I mean, there are so many different things you could try to think about in this game, but it's just fun to destroy. Taking cards, throwing cards at players and buildings. There's even a superpower that lets you pick up another monster and throw them as though there were a car. There's kung fu powers that let you put your feet on your head and fly into battle that way and move around that way. There's even a power that lets you move by standing on top of a building first and then flicking your feet off. There's just so many different fun things that can happen. Like Benny said, this game should be played epic moment to epic moment, because that's what it's all about. Making a move and laughing at what the results are. There's so many stories and puns and things that get thrown around. It's just an absolute phenomenal time. You'd be surprised too how many people hold out their character, and the rules are you're supposed to stay sitting. You're not supposed to like be over it. So you'll hold it out like this, and they'll completely, totally miss the building because they're not judging it right. And then something epic like that happens where the truck ends up on the roof. That's exactly what I'm talking about. There's so many different fun, crazy things that can happen in this game. It is just an absolute joy and a blast to play. But we would love to hear from you. What have you thought about our first critique video? Do you like it? What do you want us to see critiqued in the future? Let us know your thoughts. Take some time and leave your comments below in the YouTube channel. And of course, you can join in on Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus by searching Crits Happen. Finally, you can always find us at our homepage at critshappen.com. But until we see you next time, we hope you enjoy all your city-smashing, meeple-eating times inside the world of Rampage. Thanks so much for watching. Keep rolling those dice, and we hope they're all crits.